Hi, Richard Little, your land partner. I want to talk about sourcing distressed sites, distressed projects, distressed businesses in times of great uncertainty and a flat or a downward market, or a potential flat or downward market. What we see is a great explosion, almost, unfortunately, of projects and businesses that get into trouble. It's quite normal. It's not great, but we get quite a supply of these, even in a rising market for all sorts of reasons. But as the market, as I say, levels out or starts to fall in, or we think it's going to go that way, then we see a lot more. Sorry, I'm just doing some tech. Okay, or not doing some tech, as the case may be. So apologies for that. So what you have to do really is it's quite upsetting for a lot of people, and you can be accused of being vultures and everything else, because you're looking at stuff that isn't going well for somebody else. But you have to put that to one side, because the sad fact in many ways is lots of projects and lots of businesses go under, and you haven't caused that. This is the way we look at it. We haven't caused it, and we're looking at doing something that can, save the project, maybe even save the business, and so we're trying to bring something to the table. So, if that's a problem for any of you, then you're probably best avoid this. However, at this precise moment in time, and probably for the next few months, this is probably going to be one of the strongest sources of good projects. So we're going to split this into two sessions. So distressed projects and businesses, effectively the two sessions are, you either acquire them or get involved before they're taken out of somebody's hands. So effectively, before any asset is actually taken back. So most assets have got charges on. So what happens is, if receivers, etc., get called in, administrators, then what happens is the fixed charge receivers will come in and take those assets back. So for the first part of this subject, we're going to talk about those distressed projects and businesses that are there before somebody else comes in and takes it away. Now, I'm going to be really, really honest with you, and these are the hardest ones to actually get involved with, because generally the awareness that a project or a business or a person is in trouble is generally too late to actually save it. Number of reasons for that. Typically, it's head in the sand stuff. We're probably all guilty of that at some point in our life. We don't want to face the issue. That's often accompanied by naivety. So people just, they just don't realise what's happening to them. They don't even realise their project's in trouble. There's been quite a few high profile on the social network developers that have gone under, and lots of people lost a lot of money, etc. Now, a lot of people in the business, knew that they were going under, 18 months or so before they actually did. And that's not being smart or anything like that. It's just knowing the business and knowing how it works and watching people. As many people are aware, is the development business, like a lot of other sectors, is smoke and mirrors. There's an awful lot of it in fundraising, getting equity partners on board, and and trying to get sites, and there's a lot of pretense. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors, really. It's a dirty business, this development. Let's be honest about that. But anyway, let's put that one to one side. Just doing a bit of tech again. Just one moment. Sorry about this. I am actually trying to add Bren because he's got something to add to this, I think. However, it seems that doesn't want to let me do that. Let's have another go. No, for whatever reason, we can't do that. So sorry, Brent, can't do that on this occasion. Right. So why do we get involved in this sort of thing prior to the receivers coming in? Because once the receivers come in, then there's stuff out there for the pickings, if you like. But we're going to cover that in a second session. But why we actually try and get involved in this? Because actually we genuinely want to actually help people out sometimes whilst making a profit. We have to do that, has to stack up, etc. But I don't like to see developers go under because they're not all bad people. They're not all bad business people. Sometimes they're just unfortunate that they're stuck in a development where the market has probably turned a little bit earlier than they'd forecast, or a little bit earlier than they'd have liked, certainly. So if we can get involved early enough, then actually it's not really, there's a possibility that we can actually work with them. So where do we find them? Well, this is largely going to be from your network. Whether it's your professional team, other contractors, subcontractors. There's a lot of gossip goes on. Suppliers, so building suppliers, builders, merchants, etc. You get whispers all the time. Not always true, but actually there's always a lot of gossip. Oh, so and so, they never paid their bill last month. Although that sort of stuff is, GDPR and all that. Let's listen, get real. All this stuff goes on when people think that somebody's in trouble and they're going to lose money. They're casting their net out in terms of finding information. So we get a lot of this sort of opportunities through network, so who and also keep an eye out. So if you see a project where the gates have sort of shut for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, then it could very well be there's an issue there. We're always looking, and so always keep your eyes open. Have other people keeping their eyes open for you. So again, being honest, these are harder ones to get to. However, there is massive opportunity if you can find one. But the key here is, what do you bring to the table? You've got to come with part of a solution. So generally that involves cash. Because what we get in a lot of distressed projects is, people get a little bit nervous. Maybe the costs overrun, maybe the GDV or the end value in some form or other, whether you're holding or whether you're selling, is going to be reduced. So the funders, the development funders, probably getting a bit twitchy. They ask you to bring more money to the table, so that, because their loan to cost, etc. Ratios are being breached. So there's all sorts of different ways that these things happen, but it's generally money pressure. So the big thing that you can normally bring to the table is cash. So these really sort of opportunities are pretty much down to people with cash or people that can bring cash. You may well be a project manager, you may be a building main contractor, your main subcontractor, you may be, we would consider ourselves lead developers. You could be any one of those people, but the point here is, come to the table. If you can get people around the table, you've got to have something to offer, as I say, mostly cash. So then, it's the difficulty is getting the developer to actually talk and be truthful, because again, there's a lot of denial around this. But on the occasion that you find them, okay, then it can be very lucrative, and there's generally enough in it that everybody can get their little bit. So recently we've been working on one where the development funder, first charge holder, is nervous. The second charge holder is extremely nervous. And there are other investors that, as far as we're aware, possibly aren't aware of quite what's going on at this point. So then, we're having discussions to sort of say, right, okay, what happens here? Is it a case of a purchase? You know, is it a straightforward purchase, or is it a case of taking a position in perhaps the company or the project, in the shares, the SPV? But the key thing here is that you really need to work with the existing funders. Now, so it's not a case of working with the developer to hide everything from the existing funders, and often developers in trouble don't want you to talk to the funders, which is the very, very worst thing you can do. So if you're going to get involved in a situation like this, you've got to convince the developer that it is the only and the best way forward. And as I say, that is a tough job. But one of the benefits in getting involved early is to say, yeah, maybe you can save the developer, or maybe you can save some of their investors' money. So maybe, you know, somebody's got a second charge or whatever, and maybe you can help save some of that. But you have to be realistic. And you can quite early on start having discussions with the main stakeholders, so everybody's got money in there pretty much, you know, about, okay, this is the real situation, and maybe the 400,000 forecast profit is actually minus £100,000 now. So how is that going to work? You know, because anybody coming in to actually deliver the project is going to want something for it. So what happens is that the project that's in trouble, you know, if it doesn't actually stack up anymore, then how can we make it stack up? You've got to find the margin somewhere, because until the project reaches a certain point and has a value, so virtually completion, then anybody, even with a charge on it, they're in quite a weak position. So they're not able, or they can take the asset back, but they're actually not able necessarily to even get their money back. So this is all about sitting around a table with those key stakeholders, and having a conversation. And some of those are going to lose money. So those without any security whatsoever are the people who are obviously more at risk. And that's a harder conversation to have. But ultimately, if we are going towards the point where administrators, somebody's going to come in, the fixed charge receiver is going to come in and take it back on behalf of the lender, the first charge holder, then they're going to lose their money anyway. So although it's a difficult conversation, and somebody's £100,000 investment, you might say, well, okay, if it all comes out well, you get 40 grand back. Now, once they get over the shock of that, because generally, as I said before, these people don't know. They don't even know that the project's in trouble. You know, they might know that something's not right, but they don't know to the degree. So this is about getting everybody around the table and people being as frank and open and as honest as they can be. But don't expect everybody to be completely honest, and don't expect everybody to play ball. So like I said before, these are challenging things to pull together. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to aid a situation. We're trying to actually, you know, complete the delivery of whatever project it is. You know, and we're trying to do that with as many people intact as we can, because ultimately, like I said, if it goes to receivers, etc., most people, including second charge, depending on the circumstances, lose all or some of their money, and sometimes even the first charge also lose their money. So if you've been sitting around the table with the first charge holder and a second charge holder and everybody else, then if the developer is not prepared to play ball, then you are in pole position to be working with the fixed charge holders in terms of taking it forward. So what you're actually doing is you're potentially getting in front of people before a receiver comes in. So what can then happen is those guys will use their step-in rights, which are pretty much in all of the terms and conditions, etc. Under what conditions can the lenders step in and take over the project or the business? And once they do that, so don't have to take the asset back. Effectively, they've got step-in rights, so they can take the asset back, but don't have to go through the receiver route sometimes. So you're already working with them, and unfortunately, that then means that the developer is generally gone, including the PGs and all that sort of stuff. And that's why we try and get involved prior to that. So we've got nothing really to lose and everything to gain, because we'll potentially get 2 goes at it. So if that seems a bit mercenary, a bit vulture-like, if you like, then maybe development, or this type of development isn't perhaps for you. As I say, you've got to be comfortable with that. So up till now, just really focused on distressed projects, but just want to expand that into, sometimes it's not just the project, it can be a business, and a business could have a number of projects that it's working on, and actually not all of them are necessarily in trouble. And then what you get sometimes is you get a number of different lenders around the table, and that becomes a lot more moving parts, as Brim would say if he was on here, and so a lot more complicated. However, if you're only dealing with 2 or 3, and in times of great uncertainty, sometimes they just want an easy solution to some of their problems. So, funders and investors and all that, they've got problems as well, because if the project can't be delivered, their asset isn't really worth very much. So what you're looking at then across the businesses is, are they all in trouble? Or is there one project that's okay, in which case that lender would be quite happy to, push that one forward. But once they're aware that the same developer, regardless of whether these are in SPVs or not, that they know there's a problem coming. So this is now down to the provenance, if you like, of the lenders. We've got a lot of lenders out there that are new to this, and we've been dealing with a couple of those for some time. And it's taken 18 months or so to strike a deal on one distressed project, and that was somebody that's gone bust in the good times, so you can imagine how distressed that was. And it's taken them 18 months to come to the realisation that they're not going to get all their money back probably, so how much of a haircut are they prepared to take? So it takes some of the newer the newer funders a lot longer, depending where their money is coming from. So if we're looking at businesses, say a lot more challenging in many ways, but actually when they see a big mess, all the individual funders see a big mess, and they say 3 or 4 of them, and it's quite easy these days for people having a number of projects on the go. It's quite common to have that amount of different funders, and so once you bring the solution to them, or potential solution, all of a sudden they start listening. Now again, they're not quick things to get across the line, but what you can see is a solution that covers all. So one project you might have a bit more margin in it, another project might not be so much, but once you put a business case to the lenders and you basically put it to them, and it's up to them. If they say no, it doesn't happen. So we don't spend a massive amount of time on this, but we are now getting more geared up towards so a bit of a technical hiccup there. Lost signal, got interrupted. So I'm just going to hang on for 30 seconds while a few people come back to the live, and then we'll just pretty much round up what we were talking about. So yeah, just as a quick recap, we're talking about sourcing distressed projects and businesses prior to any assets being taken back by fixed charge receivers, lenders, etc. So really, just sort of, we've almost got through all of the different sort of scenarios that we can find. As I say, there could be single projects, single sites, or they could be multiple projects wrapped up in a business. Now, just to sort of reiterate what I said before, these are not easy to get over the line. They are relatively easy to spot and find in times of great uncertainty, but actually getting access to the people that you need to talk to, generally by a lot of the signals, certainly when a site is closed, for instance, generally that's pretty much too late. However, it's still worth, in our opinion, following it up. So what you're trying to do is get around the table with all the stakeholders, the investors, the developer, the main funders, etc., and see if a solution can be brought to the table. As I say, again, in all honesty, it's generally too late for the developer because they don't ask for help early enough, and all sorts of different reasons for that. We get quite a lot of people come in what we call project rescue, distress projects. I don't know what the percentage would be, but yeah, way in the 90s of the percentage of the stuff that comes to us. It's just too late. You know, they reach out, and it's such a shame because they reach out in desperation generally, and we generally sort of say, look, going to be honest with you, you just need to look after yourself now because it's going, whether it takes a month or 3 months or whatever. And we can obviously advise on the right things to do that from their personal point of view, give them a bit of support, etc. So, it's still worth it in our view. As I say, it might be hard to get. You get them mostly from your network people, your connections, etc., rumours, gossip, etc., people that you think shouldn't pass on this stuff, lawyers, accountants, etc. Some of these people really care about their clients, and they might whisper to somebody, I've got a business that's in trouble, or looks like it might be in trouble. Would you be interested? Can we come and talk, etc. GDPR and all this sort of stuff and all that, maybe it's not allowed, but actually, and obviously other reasons, but it happens. And generally we find most people are actually, they're not vultures, they're actually trying to help. It doesn't always seem like that, I guess, at some times, but, so in conclusion, it's tough. But it's worth having a go, because ultimately, if you can get to the key stakeholders, you can get discussing with them. You give them a proposal. The key always is you need some cash. Yeah, you might only need 50 grand. We got a project that we've been looking at fairly recently. It's still on the desk, where the funder's going to continue to fund the project. They're getting rid of the developer, but they want 100 grand. And they want 100 grand from that, but that's negotiable. So, 100. I'm not saying 100 grand isn't a lot of money, but for the size of the project that we're talking about, so it's in the millions, 100 grand isn't necessarily a massive amount. So you have to bring part of the solution to the table, not all of it, but part of it, and effectively that is having the ability to bring all of the key delivery parts to the table, tackle all the issues, and once we get the money sorted, then the rest of it's all about delivery and exit, as it were. So unfortunately there's going to be a lot of these things around, and both now and over the coming maybe 18 months. Whenever there is a dip, whenever there is a recession, certainly the officially taken back stuff, if you like, the fixed charge assets, which we're going to talk in much more detail on another occasion, there is absolutely a lot of those, and they hang around for a long time, many years sometimes, as they're fed onto the market by whoever is actually controlling them at that point. And there's all sorts of opportunities to buy from receivers, etc. But as I say, that's not really been our focus today. It's about those distressed projects and businesses before there's an official step in. So if you've got some credibility, you've got something to offer, you've got some money, you've got some project management skills, you've got, you're a contractor or whatever, you can come in and take on and get that project completed. Obviously, depends how far the project is actually gone. Where is it? Is it a piece of land with some planning? Well, that's a completely different thing. It hasn't actually started. Well, that is a completely different thing. That's a different sort of opportunity then. But if it's part completed, part started, part finished, whatever, then yes, these are great opportunities. But you've got to bring everybody together. You've got to bring the warranty guys, the building control people, all the professionals on board that have been done, the local authorities, and if there's Section 106 agreements in terms of perhaps affordable housing, so there's a real benefit of getting involved in this in early as possible. So hopefully that's been helpful for you all. So this has been Richard Little from Your Land Partner, talking about distressed projects and businesses as a source of opportunity. So take care.